get yourself a decent pair of headphones, preferably some Beats by Dre or something like that, and listen in carefully to the Scottish wildlife for a couple of minutes. And through all the incessant chirps of Beta Blackford and the cries and the heartfelt pleas of Nicola Sturgeon, you might be very lucky to hear the never-ending relentless murmurs of an Sarwar and his desperate drive to crack down on the hate that was never an issue, apparently is now though, because an asshole Sarwar said it was. You know, it wasn't enough that there was too many white teachers in Scotland, too many councillors and too many politicians that were white men. Now we need to crack down on primary school and high school hate, and now he's got the convenience studies to back up his claim. It's a very repeat occurrence that happens whenever campaigners of this ilk, of the left-wing brigade, come forth with suggestions. They're always swiftly met with the latest shocking statistics and survey results to really hammer home the point if you weren't convinced already. So, they surveyed 101 Muslim women and found 64% said they'd experienced or witnessed Islamophobia, and of course this could mean absolutely anything, and it doesn't actually mean anything at all at the same time, because just because you claim that you are the victim of Islamophobia or in fact a hate crime in general, that doesn't mean it actually happened. Till a conviction happens, then then what? It can't be proven either way. Sure word against whoever you're accusing. Second of all, it has to be noted, as everybody for the most part is aware of, but something that all the left-wing media outlets never seem to touch upon, is the fact that the minute somebody phones the police and reports an incident, it is clocked down and added to the statistics of hate crimes. So in fact, even if a conviction is not actually come to fruition, that doesn't stop the phone call being clocked down as a hate crime and then added to the supposed increase in hate crimes. It's funny that it's rife for exploitation, you know, nonetheless. So they surveyed, have I read this? Respondents told of having their hijab pulled off, being spat at, or being told to go back to where they came from despite being born in Scotland. One said, a lady came close to me and said, "Take off your headscarf." Some of the things that these people claim has been said to them by people here, I really do find a bit questionable. You don't just walk up to someone and say, "Take off your headscarf." You know? Another man said, a man with a dog was shouting racist abuse and said it wasn't worth the effort for the dog to bite me. Okay. Alright. The majority said the incident took place in the street or neighbourhood, while just under a quarter said it happened in the workplace. Around a fifth said it happened on public transport. Oh, the workplace is another place in National Sarwar wants to see some diversity. If it happened in the workplace, that would be the last place you would fucking espouse those type of views if you were going to make them public at all, which would be a fucking death sentence in Scotland with Sturgeon and an asshole on the prowl. Nonetheless, more than 3/4 of those affected said the incident involved shouting and swearing. A total of 9 in 10 said no bystanders helped them. A majority of respondents did not report a hate crime. Well, then we have no reason to believe anything that has been said here is in fact true. The survey findings have been presented to the Parliament's cross-party group on tackling Islamophobia, a party that, let's all remember folks, was created on the back of an asshole claiming that he was the victim of racism, which is still to this day never been proven 2.5 years later almost. Man, fucking, it's unreal. Chairman Anas Sarwar says this new research, oh, he's so chuffed with himself, he's got some fucking research under his belt now, shows that Islamophobia is a real and traumatic experience for Muslim women in Scotland. Is it aye? This research shows that, does it? Because from what I managed to obtain, it quite clearly says here that a majority of respondents didn't report a hate crime. So how do we know that this isn't actual, anyway, viable research on us? How do we know this isn't just hearsay BS, convoluted statistics from a made-up survey to back up your claims for your heartfelt plea? How are we to know any different? Are we just expected to take your word as gospel? I fucking doubt it. All hatred and prejudice must be tackled, but sadly we must also recognise the gender nature of it, which sees Muslim women more likely to experience an Islamophobic incident. More often than not, those responsible are men. Oh, white men, I presume you mean. I suppose it's reciprocation, is it not, in that regard, if you're going to go down this route and ask of playing the blame game, because it's normally white women that are the targets of Muslim men, is it not? For a different crime entirely, granted, but a crime nonetheless. I'm not pointing fingers on us, but if you really want to start going down this road, you're going to meet a lot of opposition on that front, because you're playing a fucking dangerous game at this point. By tarring everybody under the same brush as a select few does nothing of benefit to a country or a society in general. It does nothing to seek cohesion. If anything, it sows divisions and creates more friction and tension, which part of me wonders to myself if that's really what you want, because left-wing politicians seem to thrive off that sort of atmosphere, because it allows you to then go on a tirade of making more promises on the backs of more animosity and concerns. So, all hatred and prejudice must be tackled. We can't leave the fight against prejudice and hate to the Muslim community or to women alone. It's a fight for all of us. The Scottish Government to increase resources, Amina whatever wants the Scottish Government to increase resources to tackle anti-Muslim hate, suggesting women are more likely to be targeted. Through our national helpline and the various frontline services we provide, there have been countless stories narrated of Muslim women being physically or verbally attacked or discriminated at work based on their religious identity. And again, this is a very vague claim, because you can't prove one way or the other that you were discriminated at work because of the fact you were a Muslim or whatever it may be, whether it be a woman or a black or whatever. You know, you might have a hunch. Unless somebody openly comes out and says that they're not hiring you because you're insert prejudice, whatever here, or an insult is thrown your way because of protected characteristic, that's a different story. But there's a conflation that's deliberately done in order to make the statistics and the survey results always seem that little bit higher, that discrimination at work is a prevalent problem in society that needs to be cracked down on immediately. And it's always a mixture of both actual events, bullshit as well as, and of course, hunches. The impact of these crimes can be profound, and more needs to be done to ensure that we have an inclusive and cohesive society, and you're going the right way about ensuring that for all. The organisation has called for an awareness campaign. The Scottish Government statistics show 18% of religiously aggravated charges in Scotland in 2017/18 was therefore targeting Islam, down from a recent high of 23%, but higher than 12%. The most recent census from 2011 showed that 76,000 people in Scotland declared themselves Muslim, equating to 1.4% of the population. 1.4%, of the population, right? Okay. I mean, let's not forget here, not that him and his father are the same people, obviously, but while he stands there and dictates how Scotland should act towards Muslims and claims that there's a tirade of Islamophobia that's prevalent in Scotland, his father is in charge of Pakistan, a country that executes Christians. You know, it's a very, very strange double standards in a sort. Very strange how in one breath we're being dictated to in regards to what we can and cannot say and how we need to act and change our mindsets to appease Muslims, but then in Pakistan it's a whole different fucking ballgame. Yeah, not that they're the same people obviously, but it is strange. A quick glance at any domestic or international law will put an end to the vain hope that violence and bigotry happens only in other places. You mean like Pakistan? New Zealand is in shock after a terror attack underlined by blind hatred. It doesn't take too much for hatred to bubble to the surface and become a very real show of evil aggression. Scotland must keep calling out hatred and bigotry wherever it's seen. And of course, all you need to do if you're an Sarwar or Nicola Sturgeon is wander about and proclaim that you're against hate and bigotry, and it just magically disappears until you need it to reappear again when you've got another law that wants to be passed. You know? Constantly masquerading yourself as some anti-hate campaigning guru does not make you any better of a politician or a person than anybody else that ain't doing a damn fucking thing. Saying and doing are two different things. And quite frankly, there isn't enough of the problems you proclaim exist in this society for you to be able to do a thing about it. It's an exaggeration, or at the very least exploitation is occurring here. I mean, I don't trust a lot of what this man says because it's built on the back of a very dubious claim from a few years prior, which set the precedent for the events that unfolded regarding his cross-party alliance just formed out of fucking nowhere, and then going so far as to get the supposed neo-Nazi video that was sent to him via email, the threatening neo-Nazi video, the same neo-Nazi video that Yvette Cooper from the exact same party had tried to get removed months fucking prior, to no effect. So what did they do? Let's just roll out an ass. Get an ass to come out and claim that he had it sent to him, and it was taken down near enough instantaneously. Funny that. Fast forward a year, comes out and says that a year of abuse he's been facing since he came out with this story a year ago, and then he comes out, oh, by the way, there's too many white teachers. So the heartfelt plea followed by what he wants to do. This is no different. This is absolutely no different. Who is he to define what bigotry and hatred constitutes as? Because quite frankly, the same could be said about Muslims. This idea that Muslim people are just the pinnacle of everything's good in society, and it's the Scottish people that aren't Muslim that are the problem, is quite frankly an attitude that is leading to the growing tension between the two factions, if I'm honest. And you're just as culpable as the far right, quote unquote, and the Guardian and all that ilk. What is the difference? What is the fucking difference? Because from where I'm sat, all I'm hearing is Islamophobia this and Islamophobia that, and then there's all this talk of bigotry and hatred, etc, etc, and on a desperate need to crack down on racism and prejudice. And of course, when you read that lovely jubbly manifesto, the how-to guide, the glossary, filled to the brim. In fact, I'll just show you. Why do I need to describe it when I can just show you the real mindset of people that he, at the very least, maybe not him personally, but people he funded to draw up his solutions to crack down on hate? Here's the glossary. Hidden bias, institutional racism, BME, of course, gotta get that in there. Internalized racism, white privilege, intersectionality, bold as brass, xenophobia, race or racial, what's it called? Addressing inclusion, effectively challenging racism in schools. A how-to guide on the back of an asshole Sarwar's claims that we need to crack down on the hate. So, we all know who's supposedly the person responsible for said hate. Must be that whitey. And we all know that it won't be the white women because they're oppressed as well. So that toxic masculinity, all that racism and that Islamophobia, that's that evil little white boy. Now just think about that for a second. Pieces of shit like him look at little boys in primary school and high schools and think by default they fall into this sort of realm unless they intervene immediately to stamp out the fucking hate that can only ever go one way, because racism has somehow been redefined to mean something different to what it once did. But I'll leave on this note. Think about it. Why would they need to step in and crack down on racism in primary schools? They're going to teach children all about racism to prevent them from being racist. They would never have known anything regarding race or racism or anything of the sort. They would never have bullied kids on the basis of these things if they'd never been taught it. But now it's been brought to light. So when bullying still continues for whatever reason, the only thing that will be different between then and now is the fact that they'll be somewhat more indoctrinated to your way of thinking. So, quite frankly, I'm a bit concerned as to where that does leave the kids in Scotland when this shit is implemented alongside the feminist LGBT pish that they're obsessed with shoving in every nook and cranny possible. But this constant bullshit about white privilege and racism and intersectionality all combining to continue the narrative that we desperately need to pander to all minorities because we're evil white oppressors. It's wearing thin on us. Can't live in cohesion if you won't shut the fuck up. Come on now. How do you expect us all to live side by side when you seem to be so hell-bent on creating division? But it's that very same division that you then exploit. Peace.